Hi, this is Mark Packard, the director of Number 3 Productions and the producer of Fierce Conversations with Toby. Thank you so much for joining us for today's interview with Chris, Cliff, Charles, and Tim. During this interview, we had some technical difficulties while recording. While we were able to adjust most of these issues, about 45 minutes in, up to the 48-minute mark, you will likely notice some echoing. We debated about taking this section out, but decided that even with some difficulty hearing the final recorded audio, the words in this interview are too important to cut. And now, here's your host, Toby Dorr.
Hello, and welcome to Fierce Conversations with Toby, the show where we talk about the hard things. I'm Toby Dorr. In today's episode, we'll get a glimpse into the unbelievably difficult work of finding hope in the darkest of places and rebuilding lives. Our guests today are some of the men featured in Tom Dybdahl's book, When Innocence Is Not Enough. In 1984, 8 young men, ages 16 to 25, were wrongly convicted in the Catherine Fuller murder trial in Washington, D.C. Tom describes them this way. They were just guys from a Washington, D.C. neighborhood. They had limited education and experience and resources. They had all the human flaws that come with such circumstances and with youth. But each of them had a core of basic honesty. Under immense pressure, day after day after day, that core never cracked. They were offered leniency in exchange for statements of guilt. But they hadn't done the crime, so they wouldn't say otherwise. They didn't want mercy. They wanted justice. They got neither. Yet they endured. They never sold their integrity for their freedom. All served their full sentences and spent a combined 255 years incarcerated. What makes these men significant is that even though they served long prison sentences and are now free men, none of them let prison become who they are. They found strength and courage to rise above it all. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. I feel honored to be able to share your story. I like to ask all my guests a question that gives us a peek into who you are. So we'll start with Chris. What's your favorite color, and what does that color say about you? Oh, Chris, you're on mute, I think.
I'm sorry. Yeah. My
That's
favorite
all
color
right.
is
Okay.
blue,
Uh-huh.
and the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Optimistic, always optimistic.
I love that. How about you, Cliff? What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue as well. And
It's a pretty
it's
popular
just a
one.
color that, it just stands out to me. That's all.
Mhm. How about you, Tim?
Well, it used to be blue, but black is my favorite color now because it represents strength to me.
It is a powerful color, that's for sure.
Yes.
I like that. You're my first person that's liked black. I had someone whose favorite color was white, which blew me away because it's like, that's not even a color. But I love that. How about you, Charles?
Well, I'm going to be the second person because black is it didn't used to always be my favorite color, but now black is my favorite color.
Mhm.
And from darkness comes all light.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. I love it.
From darkness comes all light.
That's so true. So I'm wondering if each of you could tell us about a crossroads in your life behind bars where you realized you needed to do something different. So we'll start with Chris again.
Oh, mine is simple. Mine is when I was at my lowest moment. Comfort Boy, I was in solitary confinement, and I read the book Comfort Boy about the atrocities in South Africa during apartheid. And up until I read that book, I thought my situation was the worst situation in the world. Nobody couldn't tell me anything different. You could not convince me that anyone had suffered or endured the magnitude of what I had suffered and endured due to the unjust sentence. The fact that I was sent to Kentucky, hours and thousands of miles away from my family, away from my friends. And I'm a teenager who has to navigate the waters and the animosities, the atrocities, the evil thoughts of other men, not only just prisoners, but guards, administrators. I was public enemy number one for no reason other than the fact that I had been falsely accused of a crime that made no sense then in 1984, and it shouldn't have made no sense in it shouldn't have made sense in 1984 like it doesn't make sense now in 2023. But I was at my lowest point, and I didn't care whether I lived or died. And it was after I read that book and I found out, as bad as I thought my situation was, it is not the worst situation in the world. There are people who suffered atrocities unlike anything I had understood. And so until you begin to read and get outside of that shoebox mentality that I call it, there was a whole world outside of my train of thoughts, my way of thinking. And the more I read, the more I realized that I had the power in my hands to make or more of my fortunes. I had the power to either make that my monastery or my modern day place of Timbuktu, a place of higher learning. And so I chose the latter. And when I realized that the more I read, the more I felt empowered, the more I felt like I can do this, man. I can represent myself. I can be my own lawyer. The only reason why you're not an astronaut, Chris, is because the curriculum wasn't given to you. It's not like you don't have the ability to learn it. I realized from reading that just like if you can memorize a Jay-Z or Tupac song, you can learn. You have the ability to learn and retain the information. And so that began my journey, and it changed the course of my life forever and made me the man I am today.
I love that. I think perspective has the power. We all have the power of perspective, and we can change our perspective and make our situation better, even though the situation doesn't change. I think that's powerful. How about you, Cliff? What moment in prison did you come to where you realized you were going to be able to get through this?
Well, I want to say it took a while because I knew being stepped away from my family as well, the Austin, Wisconsin, so far away from my family that I thought that I was going to never get close back to them or get out of prison because of what I was accused of. And it was the most hurting thing in my life because I know that I didn't commit such of a crime, or play a part in it. But when I started programming myself and, bettering myself education-wise, that it gave me a chance that something may happen for me, even though I still fought through that, my faith, my hope that I gave up on sometime. But when I came in contact with Chris, and he gave, always gave me that hope. So when I started doing things, programming and putting myself in a positive perspective way, I felt like that I would have a chance of reaching society again. But,
that's excellent. Yeah. I love that. And I love, Chris, that you were able to, help other people change their perspective too. That's pretty good. How about you, Tim?
Well, I think my biggest change came in when I was turned 27. I started looking I'm saying, well, they done threw me in here. They done railroad me. I'm saying, and I'm looking at a lot of people that's been in there over a long period of time. And I'm saying, that ain't going to be me. I don't care how long I be in here. That's not going to be me. They done already got me labeled as this and labeled as that, and I know that I'm better than what they say that I am. So I tried, my best to be a better individual than what I was. Not that I was a bad individual, but I just tried every day. You just tried to be better and better. I remember an old man told me a long time ago, he said, open up that box in your mind and meet people. Once you start to meeting people, not just the ones that you grew up with, meeting people from other places and different cultures, you'll learn a lot more. And I actually started learning a lot more. And by me learning a lot more is what helped me along the way.
Yeah, it keeps your mind busy so that you can take your mind to better places. That's really good. How about you, Charles?
Well, realistically, I didn't know. I really never thought or had it, once I say after a few years into the bit, as we call it, I wasn't even thinking about whether or not we would ever make it to where we are right now, where you can meet me right now. I never thought that we could get here, so, and it was, I don't know, maybe it was, I remember at some point, and I went to one of the case manager reviews that they have. They give you, you see case manager, ask you how you doing, what you've been doing, that sort of thing. And it was that one I remember when the case manager mentioned the parole date, right? And it might have been like 10 years away, right? And I'm thinking, wow. And I'm looking at who I am and where my mind state is, I won't say that I changed, even though I will admit not being the best individual when I was first incarcerated. I was probably on my way to being, a pretty bad individual, but still nowhere close to what I was convicted of. Nowhere close, nowhere in the neighborhood, nowhere, not even on the same planet. But I wasn't a bad person. I know I wasn't a bad person because I understood, how I was raised. And so all of that was a part of me during all that time, even though, I became, with the wolves, I was running with wolves and I had to become one of them, so to speak. I still, my sense of who I was, how I was raised, what was ingrained into me by those who was raising me, and all that still stayed with me. So it was, I still really don't understand when I actually that I can, because I never even came to grips with the fact until the last minute. Like my thought was we wasn't going to never ask for parole. We wasn't going to let them take parole because it means I was under the assumption that you would have to admit to your guilt that you did it in order to
before
receive
you could
parole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was under that illusion,
And that's interesting. So once they told you kind of had a parole date, even though it was a long ways away, it kind of made you see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit, like there really was going to be light.
Right. I can look at that because I'm looking at my age and how my health and all that. And I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be able to see that, right? So that's something
that's good.
I can look forward to. Maybe I will get a chance to see the other side of it now.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And can I add this in there?
Yeah.
I just want to add that Charles' thinking wasn't incorrect. It wasn't up until the DC Parole Board changed their guidelines and recognized actual innocence in their guidelines in 2007 that you could actually be paroled without admitting guilt, because they understood in 2007 that there was a such thing as wrongful conviction. Initially, you could never be paroled. In fact, Calvin Alston, Harry Bennett, and some of the other guys that actually falsely testified against us, they were denied parole because they kept telling the parole board they were innocent. And so they kept with being denied at their initial hearings. And it wasn't until they said, okay, well, if I want to get out here, I'm going to go in there and just say I did it. And I'm going to lie to them because I lied on the stand. So I'm used to lying, and so they went in there and that's what they had to do. But in our situation, we told them in a letter prior to me actually seeing the parole board that I would not be admitting guilt, that I would not be accepting responsibility, even though I had remorse for Mrs. Fuller's family, the community, my family. All these are victims. And I got remorse for all the victims involved. But I will not be admitting guilt into something that I didn't do.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important. And I know that you guys could have gotten a 2 to 6 year sentences if you would have said you were guilty at the very beginning. And none of you would do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that, that just speaks to your integrity and your belief in not letting yourselves become what they were trying to paint you as. So I think.
But I just go ahead, fella. Go ahead.
And it's probably with the belief that we in no way, shape, form, or fashion ever thought that we would be convicted. None of us.
I'm sure you didn't.
That.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mind. I wasn't in the minds of all the guys, but I guarantee you, everybody thought, man, they're gonna get this right. They're gonna realize it wasn't me. They're gonna let me, But it didn't happen.
I'm sure.
And the thing about it is,
you knew you were innocent. Yeah. So,
and the thing about it is that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say that should have been some type of wake up to the lawyers that were supposed to be representing us or to the community that these guys won't plead guilty to this amount of pressure. There was no case that they amounted the amount of pressure that was amounted in this case. Mm-hmm. And none of the guys even thought. They didn't even think for 1 second of accepting a plea deal. Everybody said no from the beginning. Even when the jury was out deliberating and had trouble for like 7 days, they out trying to deliberate. They still was trying to offer us plea deals. And the guy said no. So that just goes to support what Charles was just saying about everybody thought they was going. Nobody even considered. And who would not consider a plea deal of 6 years for a crime of this magnitude?
Right.
And then you as a prosecutor, if you thought these guys was the monsters that you made them out to be, who would come to them and offer them a plea of 6 years?
I agree. That's a pretty lenient sentence for the crime that was committed. And I think it probably shows that they didn't really think they could convict you. So, Cliff, you were the youngest at 16. And they picked you up and brought you into the station and kept you for days or hours, a long time interviewing you. And I think that they told you that if you said you did it, that they would let you go home and your mom was waiting right outside the door, which was a lie, of course.
They was. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Now, I'm just going to ask telling me
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you what that was like, because at 16, you're not an adult. And I can't imagine how that felt to, be wanting to go home with your mom and they offer it to you. And it's really just a trick.
Yes, they was always telling me that my mother was in the lobby. And also when they had brought this woman in, and she was saying that my mother was down there waiting. She'd been down there for a while and things of that nature. But that was pretty much some in the mix of Ruben Serrano Sanchez that was really throwing me around the interrogation room, telling me that, he knew I did it, you know who did it and things of that nature. So I was just telling him, I was, saying I wasn't there, man. I didn't do it. And that moment when he threw me and my leg hit the locker and I said my leg was broke, that's when he continued on. But he took me to each one of Timothy room, Tim, Chris, and Russ Owens. And they couldn't see them, but he let them see me. And he was giving them an impression at the time that I said that they did something.
Mhm.
But at that time, I didn't read Kavanaugh's statement that the one that was going over with me for hours,
Yeah.
said that, you go over there. So without in the process of me going over the statement, because they asked me, they said, could you read? I said, well, I can't read that good. I said, I can read though, but not that good. So he said, well, we're going to go over it together, which is Pat McGinnis was doing that. Ruben Savannah Chanter, he just kept busting in the room, things of that nature. And Pat McGinnis was telling me that he had killed 2 people for lying to him. He don't want me to be the third one because I'm very young. He said, we want you to go home to your family. Your mother's downstairs. Just tell us what you did, what they did, and we let you go home because your mother tired of it sitting in the lobby. So
Yeah.
we was going over Kavanaugh's statement over and over and there when he kept going over Kavanaugh's statement, reading it. And then when I looked at the bottom of the statement, I thought it was my cousin named Keith Austin, but it was a K. That was a C. So they came and grabbed that statement from him. But when that statement came back in my presence, that bottom name, it was like a black marker, like went across it. It wasn't, that name wasn't shown no more. They just, this, I guess that must have been that supervisor or the chief or whatever, but he had a blonde hair. He snatched it from me, from the desk. But when that statement came back, so he was going over it. Patrick McGinnis was study reading over and over and over again. And he was just saying that if you say this statement over, you say this, read this over, and you say this when we go in the other room, you can go down to your mother. Now, my lawyer asked me, did I see a videotape in there? I told him no. I didn't see a videotape. But they had something coming from under the table in both of their ears. Mr. Savannah Chanter had one in there, and Pastor McGinnis had some in his ear. But in the video, that I got a chance to see, and they asked me that I was being video. I didn't see a videotape. But I told my lawyer, I said, John, I think I seen a black hole when he was showing me the videotape in the jail. And I said, I think I seen a hole in the wall. He said, oh, that's when you was being videotaped. Because I've never seen a videotape in my presence in the room that I was in interrogation mode.
Yeah. It sounds like it was, not a very well done situation, that they were just trying to get what they wanted at any expense. And Charles, you and Chris are brothers, actually. So how did it feel to be the older brother and find out that Chris is going to be found guilty as well? And was it difficult for you? Did that make it harder for you, knowing that your little brother was going to have to go through this too? Did you feel like you needed to protect him or stand up for him or help him?
Well, it was one part of that whole scenario. Like, we had already been found guilty, so now we're waiting to see what happened with him and Russell. And so we're in there, and then they find them guilty, right? They finally find them guilty. And I remember looking at him. I looked at Chris, and tears was coming out of his eyes, right? And I always known him to be a little tough guy. So I felt that was really, really, really strange, right? But at the time, you're in a state of shock. You shocked.
Yeah.
You don't believe it. You don't believe this could be happening. That's a part of probably where his tears was coming from, more from shock than anything, And so I remember reflecting, but I don't know. At that time, you don't know what he thinking the same thoughts I'm thinking. We both about to go to jail, man. At times I often hope that they would send me with him, that we could be able to be together. And that way,
and at one time you were. One time you were together.
Yeah, for a minute. Yeah. Yeah, we were.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is pretty nice, but probably not very likely that it would have happened. So I think it was lucky.
Yeah, I hadn't seen my brother in 13 years, and finally we were together 1 year in 97 to 98 in Allenwood, USP.
Wow.
After 13 years not seeing him, then I seen him for 1 year, and then I was back on my roller coaster ride around the Bureau of Prison.
Yeah. So, Tim, what was it like for you when you heard that guilty plea or that they had found you guilty?
Really, I could utter a lot of words, but I don't think words could really explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like Charles said, the shock, the disbelief, no matter what you was doing or who you was, you still believed in justice. So like he said, I'm looking to go home. I haven't done nothing. I'm looking to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And when that whew, to really talk about that guilty verdict, boy, that's like a live wire.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was one of the most hurtful feelings in my life.
I bet so. I bet you just felt like if they couldn't believe you with no evidence showing you were guilty, then who was ever going to believe you? I think it would, court systems are supposed to protect all of us. And when they don't put the right person in prison, they leave that person on the street to continue harming people and doing what they had done before. And that isn't good for society at all. So
No.
I think it would be, I would think that it would be logical that a lot of you struggled with anger for a little while because it wasn't fair. It was not fair. Yeah, I think that would be hard.
And we still struggle with it.
Oh, still today? Yeah.
Still struggle with it. We still, I guarantee it. I can, we still put a good face on things, a good spin on things, because life goes on.
Yes.
But it's hard.
Yes, the anger is in all, it has to be in all of us.
Yeah.
I still.
Go ahead.
Some days are better than others. But me personally, I can't speak for the rest of them, but every day ain't the same. I still go through it time after time after time, and I don't think it's gonna change though.
Yeah.
So
Tim, how many years did you serve? How long have you been out? And what's your life like today?
Well, 36 years.
36
I've been out
years.
just a little over 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working. I've been working close to 2 years at the same block yard. And I just take one day at a time and keep it pushing. That's the way I can sum it up. I know that I have to take care of me, and if I don't, nobody's going to take care of me. So I have to take care of me, and that's what I do.
How about your family? Was your family there for you when you got out of prison?
No question about it. My aunt / mother / everything to me, Miss Murray Overton. If it wasn't for her, I know I probably wouldn't be here today, because it was a lot of times that I felt like, man, I'm about to do this, or I'm going to do this here. And she was like, man, what are you doing? I never gave up on you. Don't give up on me.
Yeah, and it's important to have that person.
Yes.
That's really important. How about you, Charles? How many years did you do? How long have you been out? And what's your life like today?
I did 36 years. I was released on June 10th, which is my little brother's birthday, June 10th, 2020.
Okay.
And I've been working since August of 2020. And I've been working with the same company since. So, and life is all right. It's good. It's pretty good. It's definitely better than the alternative, right? But then life it's all right. I had a lot of pictures of what I thought society would be. You be in you kind of fantasize, if you want to say, about what it would be like to be in the outside world. And while I haven't realized all my dreams and aspirations, but one thing for certain and two things for sure, that we have to be slow. about the process. It's a process,
It is.
and we got to take our time. And that's what I do anyway. I take my time, and every day, man, above ground, I guess, is a good day.
That's good. How about you, Cliff?
Yes,
How many
definitely.
years and how long have you been out? And what are you doing today?
Well, like 34 and a half years I served. And being out there, I worked at the same place I worked for 3 years and a couple of months now, which was a job that Chris helped me got in December 12th, 2019.
Okay.
I came back to DC 2019 anyway. I've been working there. I've been coaching the Little League. I've been speaking at schools. I've been going out outreaches a lot, speaking in colleges, when I got out prior to the pandemic coming in. And then I started really talking to them on the Zoom. But, I never thought, because I never had this type of responsibility of, paying like rent, like having the cell phone every time, paying phone bills, credit cards, and things that I always ask myself, what would it be like to have these type of responsibilities that I never had before? And it can be a real struggle sometimes. It can be a struggle. It can be, what you have to do, the pay your responsibilities, and then what you have to do if you want to enjoy yourself with,
Right.
So it's it's a little bit, it can be hard sometimes, but you just have to be more responsible and know what's first, what's responsibility first, and
Learn how to
once you put them in
prioritize.
front,
Right.
your priorities. Yeah, you have to know your priorities, rather. And so I've been working there. I have another job working at high school. HD was a high school, so that's a part-time job. So, but I'm just working and taking it one day at a time.
Well, that's good. That's good. How about you, Chris?
Just to reiterate before we get on, before I go on and on, all the guys have been participating in all kinds of social reform, social justice. Each and every one of us on here, and even Levi, who's not on here, we've all been doing our part in the community. Like Cliff say, speaking at school, speaking to youth. We do food giveaways with the Greater Washington Urban League. We gave away food. We gave away kids' backpack. It's just a testimony that we're not bitter about our journey. Don't get me wrong, we still angry, but we're not bitter.
Right.
Okay.
That's excellent. Yeah, I love that.
But I served 26 years in various prisons throughout the country. I was the one who never stayed at the same institution for more than 3 years. Most of them, I got transferred on approximately 18 different occasions. A lot of times I say because I wouldn't shut my mouth. And my brother say, man, you better stop. You're going to make them people kill you, man. And I say, nah, I'm going to make them put me out of jail. They're going to put me out. And eventually, luckily, that's what they did. But I had a chance to go to school. As I told you, I made that transformation. When I made that transformation, I'm telling you, I was so angry. I really wanted to have that head-on collision. But after I reformed myself, after I made that transition, after I reinvented myself, after I found out that I didn't know a damn thing, I graduated from high school when I was 17, and I had to go to prison and find out that I didn't know nothing. And so I had an opportunity to go to college. I had a chance to get some things done, take different courses. And like all of us, we took the courses with life sentences. There wasn't a guarantee that we were ever going to make it out. And all of us, we spent time in maximum security prison. And anybody who spent any time in maximum security prison, especially guys who spent all their 20s, all their 30s, and their 40s in prison like we have, that tomorrow isn't promised to you. But we still, with life sentences, we still went on and got our educations. We still went on and took courses. We did things to better ourselves, not for a parole board, not for the court system. We did it for ourselves. And so that right there, I say, is a testimony to who we are and what we are. And we got this slogan that we adopted, that failure is not an option. And so that's how we live our life, that same way, even to this day. I'm currently working. I'm on 3 different boards. I'm on the board for MAPE, the Mid-Atlantic Innocence Project. I'm on the board for Free Minds Book Club. And I'm also a board member for Healing Justice, which is a restorative justice organization. And I just don't have enough time in the day, the course. So I never get a dull moment. I'm always doing something, moving around, doing anything, because I know that I didn't get here by myself, where I'm at today. And so I try to reach back. And each and every one of the guys here had participated in reaching back to help somebody out. We do it anyway. People have been saying, well, you need to get a grant to do all these things. We do them anyway because we know they need to be done. You know, many of the people, we got friends that we met while we were in, they're coming home. They need the basic essentials and necessities. We go get it for them. We don't worry about if we're going to get reimbursed. We don't worry about who's going to pay us back. We don't worry about grant money and all those things. We just go get it because you need it right then and there. Most of these men coming home, not everybody's coming home to family. You know, not everybody has support, but this case has made all of us grow closer. It's strengthened our bond. We get a chance to get together whenever we together. It's never a dull moment. Unfortunately, Hollywood is not here, but we would right now be joning right now. We'd be cracking on each other about something, talking crazy about each other off camera and on camera. And unfortunately, I want to also mention Stephen Webb, who lost his life inside prison. Mm-hmm. Stephen Webb, he died of an aneurysm in Terre Haute, 1999. And this is a guy who never should have been on the case as far as I'm concerned, because we knew Steve, but most of us never had a direct relationship with Steve Webb until the case, until like many of the guys that were charged. This is the first time ever in America that 17 people were charged for the murder of one person without it being a conspiracy. Mm-hmm. And it should have bothered people. And then it should also bother the fact that the jury convicted us of both first-degree murder and felony murder. So we were convicted of 2 statutes of murder for one person. Mm-hmm. And all this doesn't sit well with me even to the day, because this is supposed to tell us and tell our society that something is wrong with our judicial system and it needs to be fixed, not later on, but today.
That's right. The judicial system does have a lot of things that need to be fixed. I would agree with that. And hopefully by talking about the problems that are out there, we can make a difference and somebody can hear us that has the authority to make a change. So that's one of the things that's really important to me. I was going to ask you, Chris, about all the boards you're on, but you've already told us, and I think that's great. I'd like to learn more about the Free Minds Book Club, actually. So I might get with you afterwards and learn a little bit more about that. That might be something I might like to get involved in.
You can get with everybody on here is a member of Free Minds. Everybody on here is a member of Free Minds Book Club.
Good.
And they do work for Free Minds, and they go out and speak and do other things.
Excellent. Well, I will get with you guys on that, because that sounds like something I'd be interested in. So speaking of
we'd be glad to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm definitely gonna move forward with that. So speaking of books, are any of you planning to write a book? Is there a book in any futures there? Have you thought about that?
We're getting at it. I have been asked because I read a lot. Mm-hmm. But I don't know where I would even start.
I might be able to help you with that. I might be able to help you with that, because I'm going to start doing book coaching. So maybe we'll talk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to do a book. I
Good.
definitely I've been asked for it, so I definitely have to do a book. I got a story inside of a story. All of our stories are different, even though we are all convicted wrongfully of the same crime. All of us have different stories that cross various lines in our journeys. None of us have the same journey. All of us had different journeys that have similarities in it, but we all have a different story. So hopefully, there'll be a book. But I got a story inside of a story on my journey coming home. So we'll get a chance to talk about that maybe at a later date.
I'd love to. I'd love to hear that story. I think our stories are important because, like you said, everybody seems like they might have a similar story in a particular instance, but the way each of you would tell it would be just a little bit different. And that little bit of difference is going to reach this person over here that somebody else's story doesn't reach. So I think it's important that all of us tell our stories and share them with the world. And, I knew I was going to write a book. I had a 21-month state sentence and a 27-month federal sentence. So they ran concurrently, which was lucky. And those sentences are just a drop in the bucket compared to the time that you guys spent. But it was hard. It was really hard. And I was ready to give up. And I was on suicide watch. And on the third day of suicide watch, this voice came into my cell and said, and I believe it was God. And he said, Toby, you're going to get through this. And your story is going to change the lives of women. And I'll be right here with you all the way. So from that moment on, I knew that I was going to write a book and I was going to speak out and I was going to tell my story and try to make a difference. So that's what I continue to do. And I think it's really important, and I can relate. Chris, I read in Tom's book, you said you didn't know how you were going to do 7 hours in jail, let alone 7 days. And I remember, when I went to jail and my attorney asked for a 2-week continuance and I had a meltdown in the courtroom because I said, I cannot be in jail for 2 weeks. I just cannot do it. Well, we can all do things that we don't think we have the strength to do. And I really think that it's in those, I think it's in those darkest battles that find our true character. And, I applaud you guys. You are remarkable. You aren't angry. Well, you're angry, but you're not bitter. And there is a difference. And you were unjustly convicted 36 years, 34 years, 26 years. That's a long time to be locked away. And I think it's remarkable that you've come out and fit back into society and that every one of you is giving back. That's commendable. And I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot more because I intend to get more involved with what things that you guys are doing. So how can our listeners make a difference in our justice system? Do you have any ideas?
Oh, definitely. Go ahead, Joe.
One thing that I know that will make a difference, at least as far as the judicial system goes, it has a lot to do with these jurors and these jurors. It always seems like, or at least at our trial, it seemed like they got to pick every juror that they thought was ignorant, that was kind of wasn't really sharp. You know what I mean? Not that they were the people, but it's so everything to me. It starts with these jurors and not just the jury at trial, the grand jury. It starts with the grand jury when you get these summons, man. Learn about what's happening, pay attention to what's happening, and if something ain't right, good people can feel it. They can feel it, Toby, because I know you can. You don't know none of us, but you got a feeling.
Yes.
You can feel when something ain't right. So people has to go with their feeling. You know it ain't right, don't do it, Toby.
And I think talking about jurors, you hear people all the time, they get a jury summons and they go, oh, what can I do to get out of this? I don't have time to be a juror.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you do. And you need to make the time. Because if the only people that go to court and be jurors are people who don't have jobs or do something important, then you're not going to
Yeah.
get a good mix of
Yeah.
jurors. So
Exactly.
it's really important to embrace jury duty and, do your duty because someone's life depends on it.
And that's what I forgot to say. I didn't say somebody's life could depend upon it.
That's right. That's right. So, Chris, you were going to say something.
Oh, I think the way that we make a difference is we have to ask Congress to hold the Justice Department accountable.
Yes.
Because it starts there. If the Justice Department controls the police, they control the prosecutors, they control the judges. So it starts with the Justice Department. In our case, it never talked about fairness, about the law. They talk about the law and not the reality of what happened. They talking about, where is this material? Nah, common sense is material. And so that's what we have to really get Congress to get the Justice Department to get behind cases like that. These too many cases. You keep hearing about people spending 40 and 20 and 50 years, and then they still don't always get their justice due.
True.
And I think that's an injustice a second time around.
I feel though Chris and Sean summed it up. I just want, just like they put this publicity out here to convict us, I want us to reverse it back and put our story out to give them a reasonable doubt, or just get them a thinking of how this case took place that they didn't know. They just got the government side,
Yes.
and they got the government side, and it was all negative. It was and the publicity, the media and the people just in the society, they just took that government side and they convicted us off the break. It went all that proven guilty until we was already guilty. Before our trial started, before we picked jury, we was already guilty.
Right. And the newspaper doesn't help.
Yeah.
They were just waiting to get us in the courtroom to say we was guilty. We was already guilty.
Right.
They were just waiting to get us in the courtroom as a whole. We was already guilty before we went in the courtroom.
Right.
I was thinking also, I remember when the young lady came down in our trial and said that her mother told her grandmother this. She was reading this. That was like on a Thursday. If I can remember, it was on a Thursday. They came back Monday with 8 verdicts.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there one question you guys wish I would have asked that I did? There's something else you'd like to add? Do you think we've covered everything?
No, I think you did a fantastic job.
You asked some good questions for us.
Thank you.
You asked
Thank
good
you.
questions.
Thank you.
Topics.
Well, I'm delighted to have you guys on, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future because I think there's a lot of work we can do together.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
for having
much.
us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope next time you get us, all of us to be here.
Remember, none of us is our worst mistake. We all have so much more to offer the world, and those so-called mistakes are blessed opportunities to learn and grow. Next week, we'll continue to bring you inspiring stories by people who've identified a need for change and are working to make a difference in the world. Subscribe to our Patreon channel, Fierce Conversations, for special access and behind-the-scenes info. Go to patreon.com/Fierce Conversations or click on the link in the show notes. 10% of the Patreon proceeds are dedicated to providing workbooks to women in prison. The show notes also provide a link to purchase my book, Living with Conviction, and links to organizations mentioned by my guests. In my memoir, Living with Conviction, I recount a conversation I had in prison where my friend Lisa told me, in here, we can talk about all the hard things. In fact, I think we must, and so we shall. This is Fierce Conversations with Toby. Until next time.